I am absolutely delighted today to be interviewing Karen Drucker. She is a multi-talented singer, songwriter, speaker, author. She's amazing. And Karen has done 20 albums. Her most recent one is My Heart Is With You. I just downloaded that one. And Karen, it's another beautiful, beautiful album. So Karen also is a very popular speaker for New Thought churches. She facilitates women's retreats. She speaks at conferences. She is one amazing woman who is out there spreading a lot of love and light on our planet. So thank you so much. And I first found out about Karen's chants when one of my colleagues, where I was leading a training, shared some of her songs with us. It was Songs of Spirit 2, the album at that point. And I especially fell in love with I Am So Blessed and You Are the Face of God. And of course, I Am So Blessed was perfect for this Thanksgiving weekend. So it's really wonderful. So Karen, I really want to welcome you and thank you so much for all that you do to share so much of, the beauty of life and just the inspiration that you share.
Oh, wow. I'm done. Thank you. You've completed my day right there. Thank you so much for all that. Well, I
Well,
appreciate that.
one thing that you say on your bio, and I'm going to quote, it's, I truly do feel that everything happens for a purpose, and I'm glad that I found mine.
That's for
So
sure.
how would you express your purpose? Because that's a lot of what this is all about, is sharing with women in particular, with how that purpose came about with other women who are really doing a lot to share.
Well, the thing that I find is really interesting about a question like that is that, you think that there's just this straight line to your purpose. Like once you get it, once you get what it is, it's like, I just have to go just straight.
Right.
And you know what I think is interesting? I love different visuals. And
Mhm.
when a plane is going from San Francisco to Hawaii, do you know that that plane is off track 98% of the time?
I've heard that.
And what happens is that the computer just keeps gently correcting, gently correcting. Just, there's no emotion, it just is correcting.
Mhm.
And then you get to Hawaii. And I think the problem with all of us is we get this idea in mind. And then when we go off a little bit, like, life happens or, you get distracted or something happens, we beat ourselves up going, oh, but I wanted to go there and now I'm going over here and you stupid idiot. And you'll just do all of this
Mhm.
mental,
Yeah.
trash talking to yourself. And I
Mhm.
think that one of the keys is to just be able to have that idea to just keep asking yourself, what do I love? What do I want? What is it? What lights me up? And you
Mhm.
keep going towards that idea. But, when you go off track, you gently come back. You
Mhm.
gently come back. And, another little visual that I'd love to share with you is that I don't know if you know this about me. One of my thrills in life, one of my passions, is I'm a long distance swimmer. And
Wow.
I was training for the Olympics as a kid in Southern California. That's like I swam 4 hours a day. And then as an adult, I got into open water swimming here in San Francisco. And one of my little claims to fame is that I was on the first American women's relay team to swim the English Channel many,
Wow.
many years ago. But the reason I love to bring up this story is that if you're standing on the shore in Dover, England, and you're looking over at Calais, France, which I thought I was going to like see land. when I, when someone took a picture of me in that moment, and I'm going, like, all I'm seeing is water for days.
Right.
But if you go straight across, if you just go, okay, I'm going to go to Calais, this is what the direction I want to go. If you go straight across, you won't ever make it. The tides will literally take you away. You have to go in a zigzag path
Mhm.
all the way across, and it's a 6-person relay team, so each woman swims an hour at a time. So you've got the pilot boat, which I always kind of look at as God, that is looking at the charts, looking at the computer, looking at the tides, and guiding each person. And I remember when I did my leg, I was the second swimmer in. I remember he had me going off this way, and I'm going, oh, no, no, no. Calais is over there. And I'm like swimming to New York. And in my mind, I'm going, what is he? He doesn't know what he's doing. And it's just, this is a mess. And so I'm swimming this way, but what I had to let go and surrender and trust to is that he knew what he was doing. So that the next woman comes in and she goes this way, and the next one goes this way, and 10 hours and 54 minutes later, we're on the other side. We're in Calais, France. But my point is, when I looked at when I first started out, being a singer-songwriter in Hollywood, I had this idea of what I wanted to be, and I was just, I'm very goal oriented. I'm going to be this. And, life just kind of kept doing these things to me, and I would fight it so much. It's like, why is this happening? Why didn't I get that job? Why, and I would just do this. And then here I am so many years later doing what I am doing now, which when I first started, I would have never in a million years dreamed I'd be doing what it is that I do now.
So how did you actually get started initially with your interest in music?
Well, as I said, I'm a swimmer. So all I was doing, I was swimming 4 hours a day. That's it. But I had this incredible love of music, but I had no musical background. I didn't learn an instrument. My parents weren't musical. But this is why I think that, life is such an interesting thing, that around 15, 16 years old, I was the babysitter for all the kids on my street in Laurel Canyon in Hollywood. And who moves on my street a couple doors down is the musician Carole King.
That's
and this
amazing.
is right at that time when she was just starting to make it. I mean, I was babysitting on the night that she won 9,000 Grammys for Tapestry. It was like, oh, Mommy won another award. Isn't this fun? But, I'm 16 years old and I'm babysitting Carole King. And I'm thinking, well, this is, with her kids, and it's really fun. But what happened was, she needed to remodel a room in her house to make a studio. And she knew I wanted to get into music, but, we didn't talk that much about it. I was just her babysitter. And I come home from school one day, and there's her piano in my bedroom. And she had arranged it with my parents because she needed to store this piano for she thought 3 months.
Right.
Well, 3 months turned into a year. And I
Wow.
had that piano for a year. And now all of a sudden, looking at her, looking at how she, does this, I've been going, well, that's really cool. I wonder if I could do that. And I started to teach myself how to play piano and write these little teenage angst type of songs. And I couldn't sing my way out of a paper bag. And she said to me, the famous quote that she gave me was, "It doesn't matter how well you sing if you write your own songs." She said, "Look at me, look at Bob Dylan. You can get away with anything." And so I started writing these songs, and most of them were relationships gone bad and poor me and all this kind of stuff. But that started me on the path of doing music, and I was thrilled. I would cut all my classes at Hollywood High just to go run into the music room to play and write music and sing, and I was thrilled.
Well, what an amazing synchronicity to have
Oh,
Carole
yeah.
King down the street from you when you were growing up. That's absolutely amazing. So in your early career, though, you weren't singing in New Thought churches. I read that you did comedy clubs and all kinds of things. So
Yeah.
how did that evolve?
So I moved from. So I'm living in Los Angeles. I'm taking all my little songs around to publishers and seeing if I could do anything in that. But it was time to leave home and go to college, and I wound up. Actually, I moved down to San Diego. I went to San Diego State for a little bit, but then I found this school up in San Francisco that was a more of a performing arts school. Moved up to San Francisco, and started performing in these little clubs. And I was terrible. I just was terrible. But my desire to be on stage was so huge, and to write my little songs and get them out in the world. And so I was doing that for years, and then from that, again, zigzag path. I'm playing little clubs. Then I started to play little blues clubs. Then I started to play private parties because someone would say, "Oh, you're really good. Can you come to my party?" Well, now I'm making more money doing a private party. Did that for years, and that's all I was doing. But here's the thing: have you ever seen one of those pictures where it's like cement, and there's a crack in the cement and one little flower is growing
Oh,
up
yes.
in that crack? I think that's going to be the cover of my website, because that picture just speaks to me so much of what spirit is. That your spirit is like that little flower just going, I know there's all this cement, but I just, I see one little crack of light and I'm going to go for it. And that's really what happened for me, was that I was playing, I was playing private parties. I've got my band. I'm singing every week. I'm making money. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is it. But there was some part of me that was that little flower just going, I think there's something more. And I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was. I just had no clue what it was. But I just kept saying, I know that there's something more for me to do. And one of the things, when I do my women's retreats, I always talk about this concept of, your body knows before your mind a lot of times when
Hmm.
you're out of alignment, when something's not right, when something's calling you, when your spirit is calling you.
Yeah.
And I started to get these knots in my stomach a lot of times when I would go to work. And I would sometimes go to the ladies' room on my breaks and just cry, going, I know there's something more and I don't know what it is, but I could feel it. And this manifested later in a song of mine called The Call of Something More,
Hmm.
where the chorus says, I feel the call of something more. I feel the call to be someone I've never been before. I feel the call of something more, and it's asking me, what am I here for? And I had to keep asking myself that question. I know that there's something more. What am I here for?
Hmm.
And eventually, just by saying that prayer, not having any clue, not having any answers, I just kept saying, what am I here for? And again, synchronicity out of the blue, a friend of mine that was already on a spiritual path, she's just a friend of mine from music school, called me and said, I'm the music director of this little church, a New Thought church in Napa, California. And she said, would you come and sub for me? Just sub, you're the only person I know who plays piano and sings and can do this. Can you just sub for me? And I'm like, I don't do church. I don't know anything about what is church. I don't do church. And she said, I'll pay you $100. What else are you doing on an early Sunday morning? And I went, okay, fine, I'll show up. So I show up at this church. I listen to the minister's message, and everything she's saying, I'm just going, well, that's already what I believe, what she's
Mm.
talking about. It was a Church of Religious Science at that time, Centers for Spiritual Living. And I'm going, I didn't know this was like a thing that people thought, the concept of, whatever you're thinking is what's going to manifest. I just thought this is just what I thought life was. And so she started to sub to me more often when she would go out on the road with doing her music. And it was just like all of a sudden, when I first started going there, going, what songs would I sing? Accentuate the positive, or, these just whatever songs I could find. And eventually, because she kept hiring me to do this, I went, well, why don't I start writing a song that would match the minister's
Mhm.
message?
Yeah.
Never thought of doing something like that.
Mm.
And that's when this all started. It really started then with
And I
me.
was actually wondering, what song did you choose the first time you went to this New Thought church where you had no idea what they were going to say?
When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep. Do you
Perfect.
remember that? And
Perfect.
I
Yes.
fall asleep counting my blessings. I mean, that accentuate the positive. What a wonderful world. I mean,
Yeah.
but then I just started to think, well, why don't I take my songwriting talents and see if I could
Mhm.
come up with a song? And from that, all of a sudden, and this is another thing that I think is so important. When you start getting on the path that is yours,
Mhm.
everything starts to line up. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, these
It's
songs were
yes.
pouring out of me. I mean, I got to a point with one of the ministers I worked with later on at another church that I was the music director of, where she would just say something in her talk. I would write it down. I'd get up, and that would be the song I would sing after her talk, because I could
Mhm.
just, in my mind, I could hear it. I would just get up and just start playing. And that's when all the chants really started to come together,
Mhm.
because I started to realize that when I would take something that I was going through, and it doesn't mean I'm something that I've already come to the other side of. It means something that I'm going through that I'm questioning, and I'm trying to affirm that I've got money, or that I'm healthy, or whatever. And I started to write these little chants around it, and I could notice, I could feel in my life that I was feeling better just by singing those things over and over. And
Mhm.
then the real change came for me. What really affirmed it and cemented this is what I do is when my mom was going through cancer many years ago and going and having her chemo treatments, and she would sit in these gray, depressing rooms for hours getting her chemo.
No.
And I just thought, what would it look like? What would it be like if she was listening to positive messages
Mhm.
as she's infusing her body, she's infusing her spirit with
Mhm.
positive messages, with affirmations. And she had this expression that she said every day, I am healed, whole, and healthy. She would just say, she would
Yeah.
declare every morning, I'm
Yeah.
healed, whole, and healthy. So I said to her, well, this is a song. I am healed, whole, and healthy. I relax and visualize. I am healed, whole, and healthy. I am well. I am well. And so I would write these songs and record them so that when she was in the hospital or when she was getting her chemo, she would be hearing that. And
Mhm.
from that place, it really became like, as much as I was kind of carving out a path, when I found this specific path, it was
Mhm.
like, I'm on it now. When I can write songs that are going to help someone that is specifically going through a health challenge,
Mhm.
and they can listen to that at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're in the hospital before their surgery the next morning, and all of their support people have gone away. And 2 o'clock in the morning, the little gremlins come in with worry. And I've
Mhm.
had so many women say, I just put on these songs and I put them on repeat, and it just allows me to just relax.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm all about. I just want to be empowering people, inspiring people, giving them comfort,
Mhm.
especially this last album you just mentioned. A lot of that was really written during the pandemic.
Yes.
So there was like a song on there, be not afraid, for I am with you always. Be not afraid, for I am always with you. Be not afraid, forever and always I am with you. Be not afraid. And
Mhm.
I think about when I record something like that, I imagine someone
Mhm.
going through something hard and they're afraid, but they hear these words and they start singing that.
Mhm.
And the second verse of that says, I'm not afraid,
Mhm.
for you are with me. So it's like you're affirming it for yourself.
And I know in your albums that I've listened to, you do hit so many different topics. I mean, you've been amazingly prolific. And so, you've got the ones that you're talking about now about really touching into those issues that people are going through. And then also others that are just so happy and there and amazing. So you have been, I'm just blown away by how prolific you've been with all the different champs because they are beautiful.
Well, thank you. And once again, zigzag path. When I was trying to be the songwriter in Los
Hmm.
Angeles and going around to publishers, and they're saying, you got to write songs about breaking up and life is terrible. Those are the ones that sell,
Right.
kid. And I would struggle, and I just thought, well, maybe this is what songwriting is all about. You just got to really work hard.
Hmm.
And, I realized it was a struggle because it wasn't what I was supposed to
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Because these things, if I could turn the computer, you could see my notebooks. I have these notebooks that are huge,
Wow.
thick, with
Hmm.
all the different ideas that I haven't even gotten to
Hmm.
yet.
Mm. Wow.
I actually have 22 albums at this point. And what's so interesting is that it's like, those are just the ones that I've said, okay, I'm going to invest the money and record these.
Mhm.
But, I've got a gazillion others that I just haven't taken the time to get to. And it's affirming, all the different aspects of our lives,
Yeah.
So I do have songs about, people have joked to me, it's like, you have a song about absolutely every condition you could go through.
Right.
But I'm affirming it for myself.
Yeah.
That's what these songs are. That's what these chants are. It's everything. I always say you could see what all my issues are by listening to any of my music.
Well, that's the thing. And you've touched on this that, the path to purpose and when you even get to your purpose is really also personal growth work,
Oh, totally.
which we have inner obstacles, the ones that I'm not good enough, will ever make it, will anybody listen to me, whatever,
Right.
as well as some of the outer obstacles. So what was some of that you had to confront as you were moving along this path?
Oh gosh, everything. And I still confront it. It cracks me up. Really, you'd think after 22 albums, I could go in the studio and go, oh, I got this. Here we go. But what happens is, what I think happens for most people is we've got that little gremlin, that little inner critic. And
Yeah.
I call my inner critic, her name is Zelda. And Zelda will come in whenever I'm stretching, whenever I'm growing and doing something new.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
will come in, and I talk a lot about in my retreats all about all about this concept that it's like the reframe of your inner critic, where we can say, oh, it's a terrible thing and I want to just shut that voice up. That inner critic is there to keep you safe. I mean, that's its job, is to just show you all the obstacles, make it that you don't stretch and grow, just kind of stay like this. But again, like that little flower coming up in the crack, our spirit is longing for expression, whatever that is. As people are listening to this and talking about purpose, yes, for some people it could be a music career or writing books, but it could be being the best parent you could be, being a great gardener, being a wonderful cook. I mean, whatever it is that brings you joy. And, that critic can come up as soon as you start to just go outside the bounds that she thinks is safe for me. If I start to reach up and try and do something, it's a little bit like the crabs at Fisherman's Wharf, where, near where I live, that they have these crabs in these pots that you can see. And when one crab starts to go out, the other ones pull it back. And that's what your inner critic does a lot of times. Like,
Right.
I'm going to pull you back. But what I think is important is to recognize it. Recognize that it's saying, no, you might get hurt. And you can say, this is my favorite expression, I know you are there and I hear what you say, but that is not my truth today.
Right.
And you allow yourself to just go up above. So I wrote a song called I'm Taming My Inner Critic. It's one I write a bunch of comedy songs as well, because I started off in comedy. I'm singing this song in the studio, and I'm hearing this voice saying, this song's terrible. Why are you doing this? It's terrible. No one's going to listen to this. No one cares. And I'm going, shut up. This is about you. And it's just like I'm having this whole inner dialogue while I'm singing. I'm taming my inner critic. But what I have to do all the time is just acknowledge it,
Right.
because it's going to say to me, I'm not worthy. Who do you think you are? You're too old. You're too this. You're too that. And just acknowledge it and say, I know what you're saying, but I'm choosing to be that little flower that stretches and expresses who I am. And I think the reframe, excuse me, one last thing about it is I think the reframe of your inner critic could actually be that if you're not hearing that voice, you're not stretching enough.
Yeah. And there are certainly outer critics as well. I mean, the actual ones out there that say, oh, you'll never make it doing that. You'll this, you'll that, the other thing. It's a crazy idea, whatever. And again, you have to have that inner calling that says, hey, I'm just going to go past this.
Well, and I think it's doing this too sometimes. I mean, you have to put blinders on. You have to treat your dream or your desire or this path like it's just this newborn child that you're just going to hold and just be so caring and so cautious with who you hand it over to.
Right.
You wouldn't take a baby and go, here, I don't know you, but here, hold my baby. You have to really be aware of who is your tribe, who sees, this is one of the expressions I use in so many of my songs, who sees your highest good, who can affirm and hold for you whatever your highest good is.
Yeah. And that's truly where finding your tribe, as it were, your community, that's your true community that can support you and not stamp on your dreams and things. Yeah. So we've touched on this too a bit, but and one of your topics in your women's retreats is, what is spirit calling you to do? And I think that is a beautiful topic to share with the women that you're working with, because as you're saying, you kept feeling that there's something more, and I don't really know what it is. But when you just trust that that is going to guide you, then it actually does show up just the way it did for you in really a surprising way. But what else do you include with what is your spirit calling you to do? How do you share that?
One of the things I think is real important is to do when I was a struggling singer-songwriter at the beginning of my career, one of the other things I did was, and you might laugh at this, but I was a professional organizer. I would organize people's houses during the day. I would be a house cleaner. I love clutter clearing. Oh my God, it's like my passion in life. I just love it. And I think the reason I love it so much is because it's so transformational. You see instant transformation and clarity. You just get clarity and energy from it. But I think what you have to do a lot of times is clutter clear your heart and your mind and your spirit. And what I mean by that is to really take a look at what lights you up and what dims you down,
Mm-hmm.
or what is an energy leak and what gives you energy.
Right.
So one of my favorite expressions that I use all the time, I mean the real streamlined version of that is, that's it, that's not it, that's it, that's not it. So in other words, that's it, that lights me up, that makes me happy, that I'm looking forward to doing that. When I do it, there's like no time. You ever notice that when you're
Mm-hmm.
doing something you
Yeah.
love, it's like the time goes by like that. But then when it's not it, have you ever had that where you're doing something and you look at your watch and go, oh my God, did my watch stop? I mean, it's like time just is going so slow and I'm
Yeah.
doing my taxes or something like that. So, what's not it is it dims you down.
Mhm.
It's an energy leak. You can literally feel it in your body, this heaviness.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways that I think you get more to your purpose
Mhm.
is you could do this on a daily basis. You could
Mhm.
literally walk around and tag things.
Mhm.
Oh, going and having lunch with this friend who I really enjoy talking and it's stimulating. That's it. Going to
Mhm.
lunch with this friend who all they do is just complain about their lives and I listen to them and I walk out of there going, "Oh my God, I need a drink." Not it.
Yeah.
And that allows you, I think, to start to do this where you just kind of,
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually call those uppers and downers, and it's not drugs, it's what
yeah,
brings you up, what's your yes, and what brings you down. So,
right.
to absolutely look at that on a daily basis and a longer term basis too. So that's a great thought for
Yeah, yes,
really
no, yes,
encourage.
no,
Yes,
yes,
no.
no.
So,
And when you're doing it, you might do that with people. The
yeah.
yes, no might happen with people, and it might be people you're close to.
Yeah.
And that can be really difficult, when we're talking about this. If someone's getting triggered right now listening to this and going, but, I've got these friends of mine, I can't leave all my friends just because they don't
Mhm.
support me.
Mhm.
There's a few layers of that. It's how at the level that you share with some of these
Mhm.
people. So maybe some of them are going to still stay in your life, but maybe you just monitor more how much you share of
Mhm.
that inner. Like in my life, I have like a really small inner circle. Then I've not got another circle here. Then I've got a bigger circle here.
Mhm.
But who I share the intimate parts of my life and dreams with is very, very small in here.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's because it's precious. And I don't want to have anybody roll their eyes or make a judgment or squish it down in any way.
Mhm.
And I think that when it comes to people, another way to look at it that I think is a little softer than yes, no, or it, not it, is match, not a match.
Mhm. Yeah.
At one point I was a match to this person, but maybe I'm not a match to them anymore. We've grown.
Yeah.
That wonderful expression of you have friends for a reason, season, or a lifetime.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe that person was just for a certain reason to
Right.
bring me to a certain place, and
Yeah,
then
and
you move
I've had
on.
to work with a number of people over the years and with myself as well that had that very issue. You are starting to lose the connection with some of the people that had been in your life because you're on something of a different energetic path and
Yeah,
spiritual path. And you do have to continue to be loving with them, but have some boundaries where it may not be as close a relationship. And sometimes in some extreme cases, it just needs to be cut off. But I think it's something that people on the spiritual path do struggle with, especially women,
yeah,
because we are so emotional and relationship oriented, you
yes.
know? Yeah.
But I have a song called "N.O. is my new yes," and the words in that song say, "How good is my giving? How authentic? How true? When I cheat me just to please you."
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's, one of my main words is authenticity. And
Hmm.
I can feel in my stomach when I'm doing something that's out of integrity to myself or out of authenticity to myself, I
Hmm.
just feel off. And, I want to, I mean, I think now at this age, I'm a little older now. I think that some of those people that were negative and that it wasn't an authentic, equal relationship, somehow, and this is what I love about how the universe works, they kind of vibrated out. Like I never had to call them up and say, you're out of here.
Right.
Take a walk.
Yeah.
It just somehow wound up to be that they just vibrated out and they're no longer here.
Yeah. Well, and it does seem like more and more people, especially women, are really searching for their life purpose and really wanting to fulfill more of a purpose. And for myself, I feel like on one level, we all have a purpose for learning unconditional love and sharing that and being of service, but each of us has a different set of skills. I have no music skill at all. Yours is phenomenal. Mine's in a different area. Someone else's might be in terms of nutrition or even fitness, exercise, and things like that, or speaking or being a minister to church. There's so many different ways to express your purpose using your own unique skills and abilities. So, what final advice would you have, or what would you like to say to women who are still searching or in the process of finding their life purpose, to really inspire them to continue and knowing that they're really a beautiful part of this unfolding universe and bringing more love and light to people?
Well, I have a few things I'll say about that. I have this little story that I've used through the years for myself that I'd like to share with you. So, you remember Marlo Thomas?
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
Danny Thomas?
Sure.
So Marlo Thomas was like a big idol of mine when I was a kid. That girl I thought was just the greatest. She was independent and she was this actress, and I loved that show. But I love this story, and because I think a lot of times we look around, we compare ourselves to other people. That like your purpose is better than my purpose, and what is this person? And that's why Facebook makes me crazy sometimes,
Yeah.
because it's like you go on Facebook and you're seeing all these people do things, and that can totally trigger you into, oh look, they know what they're doing, and I don't know what's happening in my life. It's so boring. But when Marlo Thomas was making her Broadway debut many years ago, she was really nervous that everybody was going to compare her to her famous father, Danny Thomas. And she just was obsessed about that. She just thought that, no matter what she did, somehow it was going to be all about Danny Thomas. And, is she going to measure up? And she was comparing, and she was going through all this insecurity. But opening night comes, and she gets a knock on the door, and here's a present for her that they bring in. And she opens it up, and it's a pair of horse blinders, those blinders that they put on
Yes.
horses when they go to a race.
Mm-hmm.
And from her father saying, just run your own race, which I just love. It's like, just put the blinders
Right.
on and just go to that path that is right in front of you. Don't look over here. Don't look over there. Just keep affirming and seeing what's in front of you. And I love that, because I think that, aside from our critic, coming in and comparing and you're not good enough and who do you think you are and blah, 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 that I think when we can just keep checking in with our hearts every day and just saying, what lights me up? What is it that I want to do today? You'll find your purpose in just really these simple exercises of just saying, what do I love? What do I not love? What if you even just say to yourself, what do I love? What do I love? What do I love? And keep answering that question over and over and over again. And just keep going towards, it's almost like the love is the light. Keep going towards the light of what you love.
Right. Yeah.
And it will be, and that's another one of my favorite expressions, it will be revealed. There's no way, as I said earlier in our conversation, there's no way I would have seen myself being a speaker, leading women's retreats, especially having all these albums of this kind of music. But, it was just like, what lights me up? Oh, music. What lights me up? Oh, positive music. Oh, what lights me up? This job that they want to hear me sing my positive music. And from that, playing in these little churches, to then starting to tour, to then starting to go, oh, that's what speaking was for me. I was singing in all these churches, and finally it was like, I have more to say than just, these songs. I have more to say. And so, I started getting hired as a speaker, and then, oh, we want more. Look, can you do a retreat or a workshop? And everything just kept being revealed. But it was never me going, I'm seeing this path. This is where I want to go. It was like, I just kept going, what do I love? What's growing in me right now that needs to be expressed?
Right. Well, and I never expected to be leading trainings, but it was one step after another, actually, when I was in my 40s. And, Louise Hay, she didn't start her publishing house until she was 60 years old. So
I know.
it doesn't matter when you start, all the things that you have learned before come into play. So all your work in comedy stores and things like that and
Oh,
everything else.
everything. I think that's
And,
a really good point.
you know,
Everything.
everything. It brought you to where you are now, which is beautiful. So I want to thank you so much for just allowing me to interview you and to share your wisdom and, all that you do with others. I want to invite people who are watching to please go to karendrucker.com. She has wonderful albums and lots of samples that you can listen to. And you can also sign up for her events, including a monthly free sing-along, which I've been on one of those. Was able to get to one of them, which is really lots of fun. And then also go on YouTube. You have a channel, Karen Drucker, so you can check out that. And then finally, if you're interested in having her speak or something, there's a place on the website where you could sign up and ask for that. But I want to thank you so much just for not only today, but also just all that you share out there in the
Yeah.
world. And again, bringing so much more love and caring, compassion, and just your wisdom with others.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing. And I love this conversation. I mean, I think that the more that women can get together and just support each other and talk,
Mhm.
and just brainstorm, just be with each other, just,
Mhm.
doing, I call it the wise woman council. Just get some
Mhm.
of your girlfriends together and say, let's just all talk about what our purpose is. It's a great idea.
Yeah, great. So thanks
So
again.
thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care on whatever your next adventure is. Enjoy.